Please don't stand that close to me.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was making you uncomfortable.
Well, you are. This is my exhibition. Kindly admire the art from a distance. Isn't that...
Allison snapped at the man without meaning to. The words left her mouth sharp and defensive, echoing through the elegant art gallery before she could pull them back. Please don't stand that close to me. The music stopped. The murmurs died. Every head turned. The man froze mid-step, surprise flickering across his handsome face. He was tall, broad shoulders filling his tailored suit effortlessly and carried himself with a quiet authority that made people instinctively step aside for him. I'm sorry, he said calmly. I didn't realize I was making you uncomfortable. His tone wasn't mocking, that it wasn't angry, that it was respectful. That made it worse. Allison's chest tightened. Her fingers curled around the tablet in her hand as old instincts surged to life: panic, anger, the urge to escape. Well, you are, she snapped. This is my exhibition. Kindly admire the art from a distance. A stunned silence followed. Someone whispered, "Isn't that Allison?" Didn't wait to hear the name. She turned sharply and walked away, heels striking the marble floor too fast, too loud. Her heart pounded as if she were running from something unseen. She hated moments like this. Moments where the past reached forward and grabbed her by the throat. At 13, Allison had trusted the wrong adult. Her father's friend was a familiar presence in their home, laughing too loudly, staying too long, offering help no one asked for. When he crossed a line that should never be crossed, her childhood ended in an instant. The world didn't stop. People apologized. People whispered. People moved on. But Allison never did. She learned early that fear could live quietly inside a person, shaping every decision, every relationship, every instinct. By the time she grew into a woman beautiful in ways she never wanted, she had already decided. Men were not safe. Allison, I'm begging you, her mother said over the phone weeks earlier. Just bring a man home. Just once. I don't want that life, Allison replied softly, staring at her packed suitcase. You're lonely. I'm peaceful. And she meant it. Peace was waking up without dread. Peace was not being touched. Peace was controlled. She left America. Korea wasn't about adventure, it was escape. Distance from family pressure. Distance from expectations. Distance from questions she was tired of answering. She relocated her company's art gallery exhibition to Seoul, immersing herself in color, emotion, and form, the only place she felt fully safe. She promised herself one thing: no relationships. No romance, no men. From across the gallery, the man she had snapped at watched her disappear into the staff corridor. His name was Sioene. Allison didn't know that yet. She didn't know he was one of Korea's youngest billionaires, a self-made tycoon whose presence alone shifted power in a room. He had met countless women who smiled too quickly, leaned too close, wanted too much. Allison was different. She looked at him like he was a threat, but also like she was angry at herself for reacting. She wasn't rude, Sioene said quietly to his assistant. The assistant hesitated. Sir? She was frightened, he added. There's a difference. And for the first time in years, something unfamiliar stirred in his chest. Not desire, not conquest, but the urge to protect and to wait. Allison leaned against the wall in the staff hallway, closing her eyes as her breathing steadied. She told herself she'd never see that man again. She was wrong. And the moment their paths crossed once more, her carefully constructed peace would begin to crack slowly, frighteningly, beautifully. Allison had learned to hate being touched long before she learned how to explain. At 13, the world had taught her a cruel lesson: that danger didn't always announce itself, and monsters didn't always look like monsters. They wore friendly faces. They laughed with your parents. They earned trust. After that day, Allison stopped being careless with closeness. She flinched when hands brushed hers. She stiffened when hugs lasted too long. She smiled when expected but never leaned in, and no one noticed at first. People rarely noticed quiet pain. Allison threw herself into school. Into art. Into discipline. She learned to channel emotion into color, grief into texture, fear into form. While other girls dated and dreamed of love, Allison dreamed of independence. Art didn't touch her without consent. Art didn't demand explanations. Art never betrayed her. By the time she graduated college, she was already known for her bold, emotionally raw work. Galleries wanted her. Investors respected her. Men tried. She refused, not with anger but with distance, and distance, she discovered, was power. That night after the exhibition, Allison returned to her apartment overlooking the Han River. The city lights shimmered, beautiful and distant, just how she liked her world. She poured herself a glass of wine and sat on the couch, shoes kicked off, mind replaying the moment in the gallery. The man, his calm voice, his apology, the way he didn't push back, that unsettled her. Most men reacted to rejection with offense or persistence. He had done neither. Stop thinking about it, she muttered to herself. She hadn't come to Korea to get distracted. She came to disappear. Han Seo-jin stood in his penthouse office, jacket removed, sleeves rolled up as he stared at the city skyline. She runs a tight operation, his assistant said, scrolling through a tablet. The exhibition is hers. The gallery is under her company. Seo-jin nodded slowly. And her name? Allison Williams. American. 28. Seo-jin leaned back, thoughtful. She looked like someone who's been hurt, he said quietly. The assistant paused. Sir? She didn't snap because she's arrogant, Seo-jin continued. She snapped because she felt threatened. And that interests you? Seo-jin's lips curved faintly. No. It concerns me. Concern was new. He was used to wanting things. He wasn't used to wanting to be careful. 2 days later, Allison was reviewing shipment schedules at the gallery when a staff member approached her nervously. Ms. Williams, there's someone here to see you. I'm busy, Allison replied without looking up. He said he wanted to apologize. Her stomach tightened. Who? The staff member hesitated. The man from the exhibition. Allison closed her eyes briefly. Of course. She stood slowly. 5 minutes, she said firmly. Seo-jin waited near one of her paintings, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed, no hint of entitlement. I came to say this, he began calmly when she approached. I'm sorry for making you uncomfortable. That wasn't my intention. She studied him carefully. You already apologized, she said. Yes, he replied. But this one doesn't come with an audience. Silence stretched between them. I don't like men who don't take no for an answer, Allison said flatly. I don't like being where I'm not welcome, Seo-jin replied just as plainly. Something in her chest loosened just a little. Then we understand each other, she said. Yes, he agreed. We do. He didn't ask for her number, didn't extend an invitation, didn't linger. He left. And that night, Allison realized something that frightened her far more than attention ever had. She felt respected. Allison waited for him to show up again. She hated herself for it. Every time the gallery doors opened, her eyes lifted instinctively, half expecting to see that tall frame, that calm expression, that man who had apologized and left without asking for anything in return. But Han Seo-jin did not return. Not the next day. Not the day after. Not even a week later. And that bothered her more than she wanted to admit. Men always chased. They pushed boundaries, tested limits, insisted she'd change her mind. Their persistence felt like pressure, like entitlement. That Seo-jin's absence felt like respect. And somehow, that unsettled her. She finally looked him up. She told herself it was purely professional. Han Seo-jin, Korean. Self-made. Billionaire. Known for being private, disciplined, and nearly impossible to access socially. Articles praised his business mind and criticized his emotional distance. He's cold, one headline read. He doesn't date publicly. Another said, Allison closed her laptop. Of course he didn't chase. Men like him didn't need to point. 2 days later, the gallery received a delivery, white lilies. Dozens of them. No card. No name. Just flowers, her favorite, though she didn't remember telling anyone that. Her assistant looked at her curiously. Should I ask who sent them? No, Allison said quickly. If they wanted credit, they would have left it. That evening, another delivery arrived, custom lighting equipment she'd been trying to source for weeks. Paid for. Installed. No invoice. Then came a donation anonymous toward the gallery's community outreach program. Still no message. No pressured. No appearance. Only quiet support. Allison felt torn between suspicion and something dangerously close to gratitude. They crossed paths again by accident at a small cafe near the river. Allison had just ordered when she heard a familiar voice behind her, you first. She turned. Seo-jin stood there, coat slung casually over his arm, expression neutral but attentive. "Oh," she said, genuinely surprised. "You?" "Yes," he replied. "Me?" Awkward silence. "I didn't send the flowers," she blurted, his brow lifted slightly. "I know." That startled her. "You do?" "Yes. But I did arrange the lighting." Her heartbeat quickened. "Why?" "Because your work deserves to be seen properly," he said simply. "No other reason." She studied him. "You don't usually help strangers." "No," he agreed. "But I don't usually meet women who don't want anything from me either." She snorted softly before she could stop herself, but he smiled. And just like that, something fragile and unexpected formed between them. "I'm not dating," Allison said quickly. "Not now." "Maybe not ever." Sioene nodded without hesitation. "Then we won't date." "That's it." "That's it." She frowned. "You don't even ask why?" "I don't need to," he said gently. "Your reasons are yours." For the first time in a long while, Allison felt her shoulders relax around a man. They talked not about feelings or futures, but about art, travel, silence, and the comfort of being alone together. When they parted, he didn't touch her, didn't ask for more. Just said, "If you ever want company without expectation, I'm good at that." She watched him walk away, heart unsteady. She wasn't falling, but she was no longer standing still. Allison didn't remember the last time she had laughed around a man. Not the polite kind, the automatic smile meant to keep conversations smooth. She meant the kind that surprised you. The kind that escaped before you could stop it. It happened on a rainy afternoon in Seoul. Sioene didn't call. He sent a single text. "There's a small art bookshop near Hongdae." No crowd. No expectations. "If you're busy, ignore this." Allison stared at the message longer than she wanted to admit. There was something disarming about being given permission to say no. She replied 10 minutes later. 1 hour. "That's all I have." "Perfect," he responded. "No hearts, no compliments, no pressure." The shop was narrow and warm, shelves packed with art monographs and independent zines. Rain tapped softly against the windows, sealing them inside a quiet bubble. That Sioene was already there, flipping through a photography book. "You're early," Allison said. "I didn't want you to feel watched walking in," he replied casually. She paused. "That was thoughtful." He shrugged lightly. "I try." They wandered through the aisles, commenting on pieces they liked, disagreeing on abstract art, bonding over a shared love for works that felt raw and unfinished. "This one looks like anger pretending to be calm," Allison said, pointing to a canvas reproduction. Sioene studied it. "Or pain learning how to breathe." She looked at him sharply. "You see that too?" He nodded. "Some emotions never disappear. They just change shape." Her chest tightened, but not unpleasantly. They stopped at a display of bizarre modern sculptures. Sioene tilted his head. "Is that a chair or an emotional breakdown?" Allison blinked. Then she laughed. The sound surprised both of them. She covered her mouth instinctively, eyes wide. Sioene froze, not wanting to scare it away. "That's the first time," she admitted softly. "In a long time." "I'm honored," he said quietly. "I'll try not to waste it." Something warm settled between them, not desire, not fear, safety. When the hour ended, Allison stepped back. "This was nice," she said carefully. "But I still don't do relationships." Sioene nodded. "And I still don't cross lines." She searched his face for disappointment. There was none, just understanding. "Thank you," she said, surprising herself. "For what?" "For not trying to fix me." He met her gaze. "You're not broken." The words hit harder than any confession ever could. Back in her apartment, Allison lay awake staring at the ceiling. She hadn't been touched, hadn't been pressured, hadn't been afraid, and yet her heart felt lighter. That terrified her more than loneliness ever had. Because loneliness was familiar. Hope was not. Allison noticed the changes before she noticed the pattern. Her life became easier, not louder, not crowded, just smoother. The gallery's malfunctioning climate system, something she'd been battling with contractors for months, was suddenly repaired overnight. No invoice. No explanation. A rare pigment she'd been searching for arrived from Italy, carefully packaged, with a note from the supplier thanking the benefactor for covering the cost. Her apartment building's security improved. Quietly. Professionally. No questions asked. Allison frowned at the email confirmations piling up on her phone. This wasn't a coincidence. She found Sioene waiting for her outside the gallery one evening, leaning against his car, expression calm as ever. "You're spoiling me," she said bluntly. He smiled faintly. "Is that a complaint?" "It's a boundary," she replied. "I don't want to owe you anything." He straightened. "You don't? Then stop." He considered her words carefully. "Let me rephrase," he said. "I'm investing in things I respect, not people I expect from." She crossed her arms. "That's dangerously close to the same thing." "Only if I ask for something back," he replied. "I won't." She searched his eyes for manipulation, found none. "Why?" she asked quietly. "Because I like seeing you unburdened," he said simply. "And because I can." The honesty disarmed her. That Sioene never bought her jewelry, never pushed luxury clothes or flashy gifts. Instead, he paid attention. He remembered she hated loud restaurants and chose quiet ones with soft lighting that he noticed when crowds overwhelmed her, and always walked on the side closest to strangers, never touching her, just positioning himself as a buffer. He booked her favorite seat at the symphony without sitting beside her, leaving space unless she closed it herself. And one evening, when she casually mentioned missing her mother's cooking, a chef arrived at her apartment with a dish that tasted uncannily like home. Allison stared at the food, throat tight. "This feels dangerous," she admitted later. "Because you're used to having a cost," Sioene said gentle. She didn't deny it. The first thing she accepted freely was small. A scarf, neutral colors, soft fabric. "You don't have to wear it," he said as he handed it to her. "I just thought it would be warm." She hesitated, then took it. The world didn't end. He didn't lean closer, didn't smile triumphantly, didn't ask for a thank you kiss. He just waited. That night, she wrapped the scarf around herself and cried, not from fear, but from the ache of realizing how long she had gone without gentleness. Allison still didn't trust men, but she was beginning to trust him, and that scared her more than anything else. Because trust, once broken, was harder to rebuild than love. And Sioene, patient, quiet, endlessly giving, was slowly teaching her that not all spoiling was controlled. Some of it was simply care. The email arrived on an ordinary morning. That was the cruelest part. No warning. No buildup. Just a name on the screen that made Allison's blood run cold. Daniel Art, her father's friend. Her chest tightened. Her fingers trembled as she stared at the message, unopened. 15 years had passed. 15 years of silence. And yet, the past had found her with terrifying ease. She closed her laptop abruptly, breath shallow, heart pounding as if she were 13 again. Not here, she told herself. Not now. But fear didn't listen. At the gallery, Allison moved through the day on autopilot. She snapped at staff, misread schedules, forgot meetings, mistakes she never made. That Sioene noticed immediately. "You're quiet today," he said gently when he stopped by in the late afternoon. "I'm fine," she replied too quickly. He didn't press. Instead, he said, "I'm having dinner nearby. If you want company, I'll be there. If not, I'll still be there." The option calmed her more than the offer. She showed up. They sat in a quiet restaurant overlooking the river, the city lights flickering like distant stars. Allison barely touched her food. "He contacted me," she said suddenly, voice barely above a whisper. That Sioene stilled. "Who?" She swallowed hard. "The man who hurt me." Silence followed, but not the heavy kind. The listening kind. "I don't want you to fix it," she said quickly. "Or confront anyone. Or take over." "I won't," he replied immediately. That surprised her. "I just need you to know why I'm like this sometimes." He nodded. "Thank you for trusting me with it." That was all. No anger, no demands, no promises of revenge, just presence. Later that night, without mentioning her past again, Sioene quietly made calls, not to confront, not to threaten, but to ensure Allison was safe. He arranged discreet legal safeguards. Increased digital privacy. Quiet security near her apartment and gallery, nothing intrusive, nothing that took away her autonomy. When Allison noticed the changes, she confronted him. "You did something," she said. "Yes," he admitted. "But nothing without boundaries." She studied him. "You didn't ask." "I didn't need permission to make sure you're safe," he said calmly. But I won't cross into your life unless you invite me. Her throat tightened, and no man had ever protected her without making it about himself. That night, as they stood outside her building, the air cool and still, Allison hesitated, then did something she'd never done before. She leaned into him. Just slightly. He froze, not pulling her closer, not moving away, just letting her choose. After a moment, she stepped back, embarrassed. Sorry. It's okay, he said softly. You don't owe me anything. Not even courage. She smiled faintly, and for the first time, the past didn't feel like a chain around her neck. It felt like something she might survive. Allison didn't plan to ask him in. The question escaped her mouth before fear could stop it. Do you want to come up? The words hung between them in the cool night air. Sioene didn't move. Didn't step closer. Didn't let hope rush ahead of sense. Only if you want me to, he said carefully. And only if you're sure. She nodded once. I am. That was enough. Inside her apartment, the lights were low, the city humming softly beyond the windows. Allison kicked off her shoes and wrapped the scarf he'd given her tighter around herself. I don't do physical, she said quietly, not looking at him. I know, he replied. I'm not here for that. He removed his jacket and draped it neatly over a chair, keeping his distance, hands visible, posture relaxed. They sat on opposite ends of the couch. The silence wasn't awkward. It was careful. Gentle. What scares you most? He asked after a while. She swallowed. That if I let myself want something, it will be taken from me. Sioene nodded slowly. Then we won't rush wanting. Minutes passed. Then hours. She told him things she'd never said out loud, not details, not scenes but feelings. How she hated mirrors some days, how compliments made her flinch, how love felt like a trap disguised as a gift. He didn't interrupt, didn't correct her pain. When her voice broke, he handed her a glass of water and waited. You don't have to be strong with me, he said quietly. You already survived. Tears slid down her cheeks, not violent, not messy. Relieved that it was past midnight when exhaustion finally crept in. You can stay, Allison said hesitantly. But not like that. Sioene stood immediately. I'll take the couch. She blinked. I didn't even finish. I heard enough, he said gently. She disappeared into her bedroom, heart pounding not with fear, but with something dangerously close to peace. For the first time in years, she slept without nightmares. She woke to the smell of coffee. Panic surged until she remembered. She walked into the living room to find Sioene standing near the window, phone in hand, already dressed. I was about to leave, he said. I didn't want you to wake and feel trapped. Her chest tightened. Thank you for staying, she said. That he met her gaze. Thank you for trusting me. As he left, Allison leaned against the door, breathing slowly. She hadn't given him her body, she'd given him something far more precious. Tonight without fear. Sioene did not change after that night. That was what surprised Allison the most. He didn't become bolder, didn't grow possessive, didn't act as though her trust had earned him more. If anything, he became more careful. And that made her heart ache in ways she wasn't prepared for. He spoiled her the way one spoils someone you love, not with excess, but with attention. That he adjusted his schedule around her gallery openings so she wouldn't feel rushed. He made sure she ate when deadlines swallowed her whole. He remembered small things, how she liked her tea, which days were harder, which topics she avoided. Once, when she casually mentioned missing the ocean, he sent her a photo, just a picture of the sea at dawn. Thought you might like the quiet. The message read. She stared at it longer than she should have. It happened during a fundraiser dinner. Allison hated events like this. Too many people, too much noise, too many eyes. She stood stiffly at Sioene's side, counting breaths. He didn't touch her. Instead, he shifted subtly, positioning himself so she wasn't boxed in, offering an easy escape if she needed it. You can leave any time, he murmured. I'll walk you out. She looked up at him. No one has ever done that for me, she said quietly. His expression softened. Then they should have. Something in her chest gave way. Later that night, they walked along the river, the city reflected in rippling lights. I don't hate men as much anymore, Allison admitted.
Find out what happens in their relationship in the next episode, which is coming up soon. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to our channel. Click on the notification icon so that you will get notified whenever a new story is posted. Also leave us a like, comment, and share to others who love good stories.